Hello, Dan. Welcome to the Legacy Lounge. Thank you for joining us.
So happy and excited to be here. Thank you.
We're really excited to have you too. But first, I want to introduce our audience to you. Your career is prolific. You have worked across Broadway, nationally, internationally. Some of my favorite credits include you choreographing 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Yes.
I'm wearing my sweater.
And sparkle bees, my favorite color, sparkle.
Sparkle bees are the best kind of
Yeah.
bees. Additionally, you choreographed and was Tony nominated for Xanadu. Side note, our family saw that production 10 times over the summer
Oh,
of
thank you.
'07.
It's in my bank account now that you've done.
Money well spent from our end. And finally, you did Sondheim on Sondheim in New
Yes.
York.
With the great Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Thank you so much. Yes. I'm
Yes.
so excited to be here.
You are so experienced across all these, but now you are in Houston. We have you here.
Yes.
You are the artistic director of Tuts.
Yeah.
We're just so excited to have you here.
Oh,
and
thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love Houston.
Yeah, do you? How has you moved right before COVID? It wasn't the best welcome.
Well, my first day was the day Hurricane Harvey hit.
Right, that's right. I forgot about the hurricane.
And I was told, do not get on the plane, do not, which thank goodness, because the place that I was going to be housed in flooded. So
Oh my
first 3 weeks I was in a hotel with a lot of other people whose housing was flooded, which we can laugh at it now. It was really not a great situation.
No.
But Houston is such a great town, and I was
Yeah.
very suspicious I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and then I moved to New York, so I'm pretty much a Yankee.
Yeah.
But Houston cast its spell on me, and I'm hooked. I think it's such a great town. The diversity, the food, the arts, and
well, let's go directly there. That was a
so
question
great.
I had for you. Houston is a special town. We are arguably the most diverse city. How do you
We
think
are the
that
most
we
diverse.
are?
There's no argument.
There's no argument. Culinarily, arts, every facet,
Yeah.
artistically. How do you feel that shapes the makeup and especially the work that you do with Tuts?
Well,
and how can it shape it going forward?
Oh, well, I'm going to answer the last question first.
Great.
Because I have this theory that American musical theater was created in a very specific place with very specific basic things that had been happening in the world, which is it's the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where people would get off those boats coming from Europe or wherever, or the South, and they're mixed with people that are not like them. So it was the Jews, the African American diaspora from the South, and Eastern European mixing, along with the Irish. I mean, you can't even, I mean, those are the main groups, but they were all there and forced to live with one another. So you're hearing an Irish jig next to a gospel sound where people are tapping in the streets, and you've got Irish dancing mixing with African American dancing, along with this tradition that was Eastern European operetta, for lack of a better word, or German operetta, all of those things. And then we have the American musical. This is a long answer that I'm going to get to, which is now we have Houston, the most diverse place in the entire United States, and some would argue in the world. That's where the argument is. And I've traveled the world, and Houston is, if not the most diverse, it's pretty close. And we have a certain set of circumstances here that could also create the next great wave of American musicals. It's just waiting to be tapped. And so that's where I actually see the future for Houston, is that, okay, sure, we can import from Broadway and get a pre-Broadway tryout. That is part of our future plan at Theater Under the Stars, and get the next Jersey Boys or Mamma Mia. But what I'm looking for is, how do we create the next Houston Hamilton that we export to Broadway and the world? How do we create those economic circumstances? How do we create that fertile ground
Absolutely.
for that to happen. And it's a long-term investment. I mean,
Yeah.
most good things are. That's one of the questions I heard ask my cohort Hillary was some of the best advice, and my father always said, "Well, you won't get rich quick. Even the
Yeah.
people who get rich quick don't stay
The most
rich.
meaningful investments are long
Long
term.
term, right?"
And so, just to catch up our audience here, there is this community center, there is this building. And how do you feel that specific vision actually achieves those goals that you're talking about? How would
And-
that facilitate
yeah.
creating the Houston Cultural Center?
You're talking about the campaign
Yes.
for our new building,
Yes.
which we're trying currently. Theater Under the Stars does not own the Hobby Center, where we
Right.
are artists in residence. No shade, but it was built for Theater Under the Stars and our patrons, and long ago, and not so long ago. In
68?
no, that's where
That's
Theater
where it
Under the
started. Okay.
Star, Miller Outdoor Theater.
Right.
But the Hobby Center was built when after they tore down the music hall to build the Hobby Center, and I believe they tore the music hall down in '98, and I think in 2001, I believe the Hobby Center opened. It might have been 2000, so about 25 years ago. But we don't own that,
Yep.
and we have very little control of how we use that space. So there are some very huge challenges in terms of how do we rehearse our shows? How do we also operate two schools
Right.
at the same time? And then how do we, in addition to that, create the environment that and the need for risk in terms of artistic programming? How do we create that when much of the budget that we have is going to things an audience will never see, which is all of the overhead that it requires
Yeah.
for us to be there.
It seems the only way is to really create a space that you can build
Exactly.
out, to be able to pull at all those threads at the same time.
Well, and create a space that has facilities that are able to have artists come in and work and create.
It's such a good point to also highlight. I know we talked a little bit with Hillary, something that is open all the time, something that does allow people of all, even economic backgrounds, to take part that isn't based on a theater ticket. Exposure to the arts across all
smart
platforms.
producer once told me that no rich person ever created a great musical. And I think there's some truth to that. In other words, I think when there's hunger to create something, not actual hunger, but actual desire.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Necessity is the mother of invention, and also necessity is the mother of creativity too.
Right.
So when we can create those circumstances and have facilities that people are able to use at all hours of the day, whether we are creating a main stage show with a $2 to $3 million budget, or just somebody coming in for a work session, that's what that building needs. And smaller spaces that we could try things out.
Absolutely.
That it's not a 2,600 seat theater that you'll kill the endeavor before you ever begin by putting it up there.
Exactly.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I am a born Houstonian, but I often say that the Houston I'm in now is not the Houston I grew up in.
Yeah.
Right now, Houston, as you said, is the cultural melting pot. We've talked about this, but I also think that this facility could be a great hub for where new art is born and, as you said, live on and give back to the community. Can you talk about why Houston would be, and this potentially new center, would be an ideal place to shape shows for potential out-of-town tryouts?
Well, I think one thing that gets missed in the creation, especially of new musicals, is the fourth character, which is the audience. And perhaps it's the most important thing when you're talking about commercial theater, because we are a not-for-profit theater, but most of the seminal musicals in the canon were created at not-for-profit theaters. Chorus Line, Rent, Hamilton were all created at one place, the Public Theater in New York, which is a not-for-profit theater. Each of those shows lost money. Oh, excuse me, Rent was at New York Theater Workshop, not the Public. But all of those shows lost money at those theaters, and then they went to Broadway, and there's a revenue stream that fed back to each of those theaters because your initial investment is considered part of the Broadway investment, which
it's a long-term investment.
It's a long-term investment, and as Stavis Wealth knows, you have to take some hits on these things, and have to have fortitude with that. But I think.
But patient capital is normally rewarded.
Normally, yeah, and in this too, I think, in my experience in the commercial world, a lot of times, if the show is good and doesn't find its audience right away, there are many more steps. There's touring, there's professional touring, there's non-professional touring, and then there's licensing and several levels of licensing. And those are all very, very rich revenue streams if tapped correctly. But
and so why would this facility be really effective at giving a new show all the juice it needs to succeed?
Well, this new facility would be, I'm getting back to the fourth character, the audience, and that the primary audience for new musicals or for the hot new thing needs that Broadway stamp. I think it always will need that for all of the other stages, national tour and licensing. And the primary, it was not always the case. It was that New York set the stage for culture in this country. And to some degree, it's still one of the most major players. But I think we'd be foolish to say Los Angeles isn't one of those centers as well.
Absolutely.
And in many other cases, there are other pockets that are dictating that as well.
There are, across the arts. And we don't need to go on a whole spiel, but yes, it is diversifying from the epicenter of New York City, and Houston is in a prime position to be one of those players.
But the main audience for musicals in particular in New York is a tourist audience.
Yes.
And it lives and dies on that tourist audience, which is a super diverse, and I don't mean in terms of race, I mean just in terms of everything.
Every aspect.
And why not go to the place where your fourth character, the audience, is the most diverse audience in the country? And it only makes sense. We have artists here that their primary languages are not English, that they come from all of these other places. And that perspective, that rich culture of music, gosh, I love that. And how can it be fused with what we know of as musical theater today? Then something new will happen.
Yeah.
I think, I'm this old guy now, and that, nothing new is going to come from me, but I can sure create the circumstances that something will happen from something new. And that is what I think could very well change not only Houston and Houston's art scene, but Broadway. It could change the world, much like Hamilton did.
Yeah.
Somebody who is totally, Lin-Manuel, totally enmeshed in musical theater, but also comes from a musical taste that was not embraced until he created something.
Right.
How exciting would that be if we had Bun B creating a new musical, or someone from Houston that we don't know of yet, that is a young person that is totally in love with music but didn't know that musical theater was an option for them to write something. How incredible would that be?
Absolutely. And I think that's what it comes down to, is we don't know what could happen, but
we don't know.
We want to be at the formation, at the place to be able to create the foundation for those creative voices to sing.
And not knowing is actually an okay thing.
It's
Mike Nichols, the great Mike Nichols, I quote this all the time. He said it about directing, but I actually think it's about producing as well, and about, what we're trying to do with this new building is that run away from somebody that says a sure thing.
Yeah.
There's no sure thing in life.
Mm-hmm.
But you do want to follow someone that is smart and has a great hunch.
Yeah.
And being a director, oftentimes, especially with new works, is like being an archaeologist, he said,
Yeah.
which is you have a hunch and you excavate. You excavate. You hit a brick wall, you go over here, excavate a little more, and voila, you found something.
Yes.
And I think that's sort of this way too, is that I have a hunch that we can be a tastemaker here in Houston,
Yeah.
especially for musical theater, because all of the elements are there. It just needs one place to bring that all together, and that is this new art center that we're proposing.
Well, I'm incredibly excited about it. When both you and Hillary have discussed it, I think it's absolutely the stamp that Houston needs. Now, you've had all this experience. The reason that you can even have a hunch, I think a verified hunch, is that you've had so much experience across the arts in different realms. You've been a choreographer, you've been a director, you've been a producer.
And a writer now,
and
too.
a writer. And that resonates with me. How much do you feel, and that's why this center to me is important, how much do you feel like starting your world and your life in the arts impacted you to even think creatively like this? And how important is that artistic expression and creation? How important is that for our youth as we're developing this center?
Oh, I think it's so important. And again, I think in all fields, nothing new is going to happen from just regurgitating and redoing everything that we've done before. It's safe. Sure, but I think the real innovation is the key, and innovation comes from creativity in everything. I told this story once before that, gosh, when I was young, I hated math. It's not because I wasn't good at it and not smart. I just didn't apply myself because I thought, gosh, it's so set. But English, my God, I would write these florid passages and dive deep into the emotional arcs of these characters and the psychological things. But what I've come to realize is that budgets and money is a very creative thing. There are many choices. It is not set in stone. And had I known that back then, my gosh, I would have been in your position, in Deb Stavis's position, instead of being a theater director, because it is a creative expression. And so I think it serves all industries if kids are exposed to those creative outlooks. I think a general in the military needs to be exposed to it, because not only is it going to give you empathy and knowing how to persuade and lead a group of people, but it also is going to give creative problem solving.
100%.
Nothing is going to get done by doing the same thing over and over and over again. You have to approach problems from a very creative perspective. And as a growing up, teenager and adult, I never realized it. I just did the arts, and lo and behold, it has served me so well in life.
Yeah.
And I know many examples of this through our school, both of our schools, the Humphrey School of Musical Theater and the River. All of those students have gone on to many greater opportunities, not in the arts, but use those creative problem-solving skills in everyday life. Yeah. It's incredible.
And that's what I want to highlight, and that's how I want to tie it all back together, even with what I do at Stavis Wealth. No matter what I've done, I've always been a storyteller. And then I've gotten to play with that in various ways, because as a theater kid, you learn, how do I solve this problem now? How do I build a community? How do I communicate?
But we don't talk about it enough, but I think it has become increasing in terms of social media and the way we observe other people, the way that there are so many people lurking on. Lurking is the wrong word,
but it's about how you have to present yourself.
How
and that
do you
is
present
key.
yourself? And also that there is social capital in knowing how to talk to another person, how to enter a room, and speak to a group of people that is super valid, that social capital can be the difference between a company hiring you as an executive or a company hiring someone else as an executive that might not have as great of skills as you do.
I mean, I credit my 5 years in the Meisner repetition technique
Lord.
and literally having to be like, you're wearing a brown suit. I'm wearing a brown suit. But what it did is forces you to look at someone in the eye, observe, understand what they need. And I credit that with how I communicate with everyone moving forward. And so this community center, even though I, have had careers in the arts and as producer, but now I'm spearing a wealth management firm. That training, though, on how to think creatively and work with others, that's why I think this community center is extremely important.
Totally. Yes, and I think, some people might say, oh, well, it's creating this art that's just going to go back to Broadway. But all of those dollars come back here. And
yes.
The soft capital, which is even more important, are those students that are going to benefit from it, and those skills are then going to go to every single
They might not just appear on Broadway. They're going to appear across all of Houston.
In Houston, correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and also, who knows? It certainly the needs of government officials and politicians and what the arts does for your public speaking skills and does for empathy, does for leadership. My goodness, don't we need that in the world?
Absolutely.
And I think this center would be just something that would really, really feed into that need that we definitely need in Houston, I feel.
Yeah. Well, a final question, but if you were 10 years out, what would you hope that your time as artistic director at Tuts, what would you hope that people said? Or will continue to say as you continue to build out Houston as the number one city, right?
Yes. I hope that I will be remembered, or I hope someone remarks that I had pretty broad programming in the sense of I like programming a season that is, my mother is Swedish, so I say a smorgasbord of taste.
It is indeed this new season coming up. Really great.
Yeah, and I like, as an arts patron, it is a little different, I have to say, in Houston, and it took me a little bit to figure this out, is that, in New York itself is a smorgasbord because you could go out every night of the week and never see the same discipline twice. And, Houston has tremendous art offerings, and you could almost do that, but I like so many different things. My interests are so different. So I think the board hired me because of my taste, which I think is pretty great. But, others I've learned to respect have different tastes. And but I hope someone or people would say that they were exposed to a broad range of musical theater, not just the South Pacifics of the world, which I adore.
Right.
But other shows like Oh Mary, which is coming up in this season, which isn't a musical. It's a play with music.
I was going to say it's a play with music, but I think you have threaded, that is hard to do, to construct a season like that.
It's very
I think you've
difficult.
done an excellent job.
It's very difficult.
I just saw, I saw one of the performances of Oh Mary. It is an extraordinary show.
Yeah.
But I think the way you've threaded this is really exciting.
And I hope to people who are subscribers and who come to Touch shows have been open to other ideas about the arts and we don't know what the effect is of seeing Hamilton on you the first time, but we do know now that, like, years later after seeing it, I still remember passages from it, and they make you think, and you meditate on these things. Like, I think all the time of a moment in Hamilton where I got frisson, which is, your skin gets goosebumps.
Yeah.
There's an actual word for it, which is frisson, and it's a musical thing that vibrates. But I say in musical theater, what's great is that the lyrics are rhyming, so that puzzle you're trying to figure
Right.
out. You've got lights, movement, the actual music, and the character story all hitting at once in the room where it happens, where Leslie Odom Jr. is singing that song. I'm getting frisson now,
Yeah, I know.
remembering that moment. And I hope audiences have moments like that, and I know that they do. And I hope that enriches them and that they think back that Theater Under the Stars carried on Frank Young's vision under a different regime than when he was here, and adapted to the times. Because frankly, that's also one of the big thing sitting over here is that, it's not Rodgers and Hammerstein anymore, and it hasn't been for many, many years. And currently, it's in a place that we don't know in terms of musical theater. Some would say Lin-Manuel, which I'm fine with. I think that would be great, but he's only written 2 shows now, so that's
Both great ones.
Both great.
But I think exactly what you're saying is throughout time, it doesn't matter, historical or up to now, that has always been symbolic of the live theater experience, the frisson.
Well,
and what I want to make sure is that we have an opportunity for Houston audiences to feel that. It's something in the age of AI and created content. What you trust is what's in front of you. So live performances are going to be so key in our future's entertainment.
That's a great point, too, is that I think what
can you trust is real and happening in front of you?
The one lever that I think theater will have eventually, I think there will be, and there currently is some suffering in terms of numbers of people coming back. We still haven't gotten back across, all areas, bars, restaurants, sports events, back to the pre-COVID era of people going out several times a month instead of twice a month, which is really the average now. But the one lever that I think will endure for theater is that it is live. You are breathing the same air as those actors on stage, which causes that frisson.
You are having a one-time collective experience that nobody will ever experience
with the person
again.
next to you too, which is also annoying at times because they might be coughing.
Yes.
But it also
it's all part of shaping that experience for live, whether it's been good or bad. Even I remember it distinctly because that was the one unique experience I had with that person that will never be recreated.
One other thing that you mentioned on about whether it's past or present, I also love something about going and seeing like a Rodgers and Hammerstein show when it's done really well and you go, wait, how did they know that in 1949? And it resonates now almost 80 years later. I think that is incredible.
Exactly.
I did a show on Broadway called Lysistrata Jones. It didn't last very long, but I was so proud of it. But it was based on a very old Greek play, Lysistrata, where the women have a sex strike against their men unless they stop making war.
Yeah.
It was written 3,000, 4,000 years ago, and it still resonates.
And its relevancy within a modern context must have been a fascinating project to dive into.
It was incredible. And I think that the same with Shakespeare, too.
Exactly.
Of like how, and Hamilton, I keep going back to Hamilton, proves that, too. How does Hamilton and Aaron Burr and their rivalry and the fighting over the government still resonate with us today? That blows your mind, and
because they're human emotions, and that's what art does. Is it reveals those core truths across time and space, and those are more of the authentic stories that we want.
The intellectual and actual physical stimulation of that is what keeps audiences coming back to musical theater. It's incredible, and it's why it's my life. That's why I love it so much.
Now that we have you firmly here in Houston as the artistic director at Tuts, what are your favorite places in town?
When I got to Houston, a friend said, you have to go to the best restaurant he's ever been to. It's a foodie. And I said, great, I'm ready to get the reservation. He goes, they don't take reservations. And it's in a strip mall.
Where is it? You're such a tease.
And it's called Himalaya.
Ooh.
And it's Pakistani Indian food mixed with Southern Cajun cooking. And
That's
it is
great.
incredible. And I went and I was like, oh gosh, this is a world that opened to me. And then I joke with people that I moved for El Tiempo because I had never tasted fajitas that tasted that good before. And it's usually a weekly ritual that I go to El Tiempo.
It's so good.
Can I get a residual from El
Yeah,
Tiempo?
do we need our 10%? Thank
Yeah,
you.
your 10%.
Whenever we've lived on coasts, I hands down think Houston is the best food scene in the nation.
The best.
And people trust us because you've been everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, New York, sure, it's great food, but a lot of it's inaccessible.
Exactly.
Like it's too high priced.
If you go to Per Se, if you get into
if you can get into Per Se.
Right.
But here, even the very, very hot restaurants, you can almost always get in. Sometimes you can even walk into them, which is rare. And it's so good. And bar none, best Mexican, best Tex-Mex, right here.
Absolutely. I joke.
And I could eat Tex-Mex every day and be just happy.
Every meal and be so happy. I joke as soon as I cross the Texas border, I gain 10 pounds. And it's not a problem. I'm very happy about
I might gain 10 pounds from just the chips, the guac, and the margaritas. Oh, and queso. Yeah.
This is a whole other podcast where we talk about it. But thank you, Dan, so much for joining us in the Legacy Lounge. This has been really incredible.
So thankful to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks.